right, this is Andrew with Killing the Void podcast, and I'm here today with Logan Johnson. He's actually my cousin, and we're going to be going over the fires in California that's kind of plaguing our state. And this is going to be mostly regarding the Northern California fires, as to that's where he's located. We aren't going to name the fire station because he asked me to withhold it. And so we're just going to start off going into what led him into joining the fire department as a volunteer, and then what his beginning process and steps were. Maybe he met someone in his town and they said, hey, go try this out. But we're going to let him talk about that. So Logan, to reiterate the question, what got you interested in becoming a volunteer firefighter? And then what was the process of starting that?
Well, first off, thank you for listening to me and my story. I appreciate it. Well, what got me interested in becoming a firefighter actually started back in 2015. We had a terrible fire ripping right through basically the heart of our counties called the Butte Fire.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, it was a terrible fire that it destroyed a lot of homes, a lot of people displaced, a lot of livestock, animals missing. It was a nasty one. And I don't think anybody in this area recently had known how bad fires really were,
Yeah, I remember as a horseshoer, I remember people call me up, hey, can you transfer horses to these fairgrounds or to these ranches that are going to hold them? There was horses coming in and cats and dogs with fires, with burns all over their bodies. And people were just losing homes left and right. And I'm sorry I interrupted you, but it's kind of an interview, so we're going to go back and forth, Logan.
No, for sure.
So you started in 2015 with the Butte Fire. Did you actually help people? Did you go to these residents?
Not as a firefighter, just as a private citizen. I helped the people on my side of the county try to, do the same thing, move animals, and, did what I could, but while working at the same time. So, yeah, but I didn't help as much as I wanted to. And that's what started my path toward even thinking about being a firefighter.
Oh, I understand, man, because we got to pay the bills. So you could only do as much as you can do, but you want to do more than you can do, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect
There's
sense.
not enough time in the day, basically.
No.
And you have to sleep sometime in the night. But, so when did you actually approach a firefighter, or was there an ad that you seen? Like, what started that?
Well, honestly, it didn't start until I moved to the town I'm currently living right now. To back things up and to make it short, I helped out a neighbor and spoke at one of the county buildings, and I had a speech. And I guess I was nervous as heck, but I guess it was a really good speech. And the right people happened to be there. A couple weeks after that, I drive home from work and I'm getting out, and just a normal day, and I see the fire chief standing at my door, and he recognized me from the speech, and he's like, how would you like to become a firefighter? and it was kind of random, so I just...
It's pretty random.
It was very random.
But kind of cool, too.
And I didn't even think about it. I just said, I would like that.
Oh, yeah?
And he's all good. Meet me back at the station in 20 minutes if you can. And then that's how it started. I went and filled out my paperwork that I needed to. And, it just kind of snowballed from there.
Wow. Okay, so this guy approaches you. Did he do the hiring, or did he just work there?
Yeah, he's the fire chief. He's the
main guy.
He's the main guy.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you filled out your application, and then did you go in for an interview? What was the next step?
Well, in my town, a lot of these guys are old school. And basically their interview is just talking to you and kind of filling you out. I had to fill out the legal stuff, of course, but
yeah,
this man had already made up his mind before I had even joined. I'm pretty sure of that. And knowing my chief, that's how he is.
So I'm going to interrupt you again.
Yeah.
I know for law enforcement, because that's what I went to college for, actually, there's a long process in law enforcement where we had to do physical agility tests, written tests, physical exams to see how healthy we are, and it just goes on and on. You got the background check, and it's not just a regular background check like renting a home. It's like a full blown background, make sure you're not a crazy person. So did you have to do any of that?
Yeah.
As a volunteer, because we're talking about volunteer right
Yeah,
now.
and I mean, not as extreme as law enforcement or corrections, but yeah, I had to go through a lot of the background check. I had to go through my physical, a lot of couple machines they hooked up to where you're fitted for a mask and
Oh, really?
Yeah. And basically, you got to give all your information. But like I said, it's not as crazy. We're not carrying guns or anything that may, that law enforcement officers or corrections may have to use. So as far as it's not as strict as that, but they want to make sure that you're not, somebody bad.
Obviously.
But I mean, yeah. So I had to go through the process. I guess I'm underscored it a little bit. It just kind of happened and went through it, and that was that. And
so it just went pretty smooth for you.
Went really
you were in
smooth.
the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
With the right audience, and it just worked out for you. You live in the right place.
Like a glove.
Yeah.
I mean, almost too smooth.
Yeah, like kind of like it was meant to be, so to speak.
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, so and I understand you had to do some type of training or academy. Now, this isn't like the actual... I don't know. I could be misspeaking. Is it like going to a fire science school at college, or is this like a private academy? How does this work? Do they send you off to another area, like not even here in this town, or
Yeah. Well, I would say it's more like a private academy. All the standards are pretty much set to, you have to have your state qualifications for things.
Oh, wow.
Your state certifications. It's half of its classroom and the other half is hands-on with, certified instructors, mostly officers. It wasn't actually, I didn't attend the academy in my own town though. I traveled around my county to various fire stations, and they each taught a certain subject, and they showed the curriculum for that that training. So I went all around my county for 6 months, and covering textbook, taking tests, and hands-on by far is the best. It was a blast, a learning experience, and extremely humbling.
Yeah, I took a fire science class actually in high school, but it was very immature and very amateurish. It's just like an intro, and we'd have to learn how to tie half hitches and put on the breathing apparatuses and all that stuff. But I guess my question is, if someone else in, let's say, California or another state, we don't know the other state's requirements, but how would they, let's say they also live in a area where everything seems to work out for them, but they got a job like you, because you got to bring home the bacon for your family. Mm-hmm. How did you juggle the two? Did you take time off from your main job, or did you do all this on your days off? How did the fire departments work with you in your schedule?
Honestly, it was luck and a lot of patience from my wife. A lot of patience from my wife.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, those 6 months were hard for her because I have a little one. She's not even 2 yet, and I'm having to go to night classes during the week. On Saturdays, it was all hands-on training out in the field, and that consumed my entire day. Night classes went from 6 p.m. to about 11 at night.
Wow.
And then I work a night shift, so then I have to be up at 2 to go to work at 3. It was tiring, but it's one of those things where you want something bad enough, you'll do it. And if you have the right people in your life, they'll help you get there.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful for that. But for 6 months, it was little sleep, lots of caffeine, and not drinking energy drinks in front of your instructors.
That's a strong, you definitely need a strong support system at home, your family and friends. I understand that. And, this is one of the things, and I don't want to talk about politics, so let's not do that. But let's talk about, there's different views in the world where there's the belief where there's a ladder system and you have to take each step, and it's hard, but to grow and to move up in life, you have to attack that ladder and just keep climbing until you get to the top. And then there's the other belief structure where there's a rope hanging and someone at the top to help pull you up. And in our society, everybody wants to be pulled up right away. They want that fast pass. But really, at the end of the day, a lot of those people aren't happy. They don't feel achievement in their life.
That's true.
And they feel lost. And I believe you did it the right way, Logan. Even though you were in the right place at the right time for the beginning process, you had to bust your ass, man. You had to put in your time. You had to do double shifts all day at work and school. So I really commend you on that. And then also you had to come home and help your wife with your baby, because obviously she needs a break. That's a hard job in itself.
That's a full-time job.
That's a full-time job with a kid that's a year or under a year old at the time when you're going through this. Okay, so now we got that down. We're so you did all this, you did the classes, you did the hands-on training. Before we move on though, what was the funnest experience? Because there is some fun in doing this. Obviously the classroom's gonna probably not be the fun moment, but the hands-on experience, was it the holding the hose or using the jawbreakers of life? I forget the name. To open doors when they're stuck.
I can't pin one thing. I was fortunate enough to have great instructors. These instructors made it interesting throughout the entire basically semester of school to stay focused, and they had some interesting stories, interesting experiences. But I have to say probably the one that sticks out most is our vehicle fire and auto extrication. That was fun. You get to play with some big tools.
What are those tools called?
Jaws of Life.
Oh, so I was right.
Yeah, the Jaws of Life, yeah. And that's what pretty much everybody knows them as. And there is kind of an art to cutting a car. You wouldn't think so, but
there is. I remember in fire science class.
In modern, these modern cars, different metals, different parts cut easier. Some don't cut at all. New safety features.
You know what? I didn't even think of that because we only use one car. Like I said, my class is very limited. Yours is probably way more advanced than mine.
I don't know about that,
but I didn't even take that into account at that time, or even up until now, that there are different cars. There's going to be different weak points and structural. They're all built different.
Oh yeah, the Teslas. I love those cars. They're pretty neat. They're kind of creepy smart, but at least they have a nice wire in orange that says to cut here to disarm that.
Oh really?
I wish every I wish everyone did that.
That's neat.
That's cool stuff. So yeah, that was the experience that stood out most. And there's some good times too, and as well as the other academy students there. There was no, everybody was on the same team. Every single person. Sometimes you go to class where there's a one guy you don't like or girl you don't like. That wasn't even like that. Everybody's on the same team. It was the beginning.
So everybody was mature and they knew at the end of the day they have you to rely on, right? To help them and.
Yep.
And in the future, when you're actually at the firehouse or at a fire or at an accident, these are the people you have to rely on.
Yeah, and we're all from different departments. So, but a lot of us share mutual aids with each other. So we'll run into each other on incidents from different departments.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. So you're working with them one way at some point.
I know. So I keep regarding this. I'm sorry, I keep going back to it. But when I was in the fire science class, I remember one of the instructors, he said back in the old days, there was like rivalries between the firehouses. So if your town is burning down and there's another fire station just 20 minutes up the road and they don't like you because you got more money, they're probably not going to come help you. But, our society has evolved so much over the years, the 100 years or whatever it is. And now everybody's helping each other. And that's we're always focusing on the negatives in life because that's what the news throws at us all the time. It's negative. But, when you really take a step back and look at the people around you, everybody's just trying to get through life just like you. They're trying to go to work, pay their bills, raise their family, and have fun. And when there are times of emergency, usually there are going to be those people that stay back and watch. But then you got those other people they're going to take it head on and try to help. And and I see that's what's good about our society, the people in uniform. And that's not just the firefighters and the paramedics and the police officers, but you also have the nurses and the doctors and the vets. They're in uniforms too. So.
I mean, even we've had utility companies be the first on scene, and they're just having me driving by a vehicle accident, and they'll stop traffic. They'll do what they can to help. People come together. I've seen that more and more. Kind of restores a little hope. They're out there,
Yeah.
So.
And that's the good things to see, and I'm sure there's some bad things you've seen. Especially right now, it's a 2018. California's on fire. Just a few days ago, or maybe a week ago, I know it was all over the news that California smoke is now reaching New York. so everybody's feeling the smoke, and up here it's choking. I go to work where I live, and some days are just thick with smoke, and other days you got a good day. So let's take a step back though before we get into all the fires and incidences that you've went to, and we don't have to name names on those in the future, but I want to know what's life like at the firehouse, because everybody has this perception that all they do is just sit around and clean their fire trucks all day and have big old breakfasts and dinners and drive their fire trucks to the store to buy groceries. So everybody has this, and they're taking my tax dollars, and our grandfather was one of those.
Yeah,
I was a volunteer firefighter and I didn't get paid, and blah 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 blah. But life's a lot more expensive now, and in any job you're gonna have slow moments. So obviously there are going to be times where you can enjoy a dinner because you're away from home that night, and you got to eat. Everybody has to eat. And you got to keep your equipment up to par with the you don't want your fire truck rusting. But anyways, maybe you could go into that a little bit more.
Well, first I'll say the fire service has evolved from the time of Grandpa, for sure. It's evolved. It's become more fast paced because life itself has become more fast paced, and everything's had to keep up with it. But I will say mostly all the above is true. There are some big breakfasts and there are slow times, but on the other hand, someone will be making breakfast while someone else is cleaning gear and maintaining the engine. That's a life-saving job right there. If you're going out in the field and your stuff is missing or your stuff is not working at 100%, that's someone's life that could be in possible danger because you could not get, you couldn't get to them fast enough, or your tools were not where they should have been. Seconds count, in emergency response in general. And like you said, you got to eat, so you're going to see people out shopping. That's just how it goes. But really, like, downtime at the station is actually a lot of training. It's a lot of going over things, flushing out, the errors that were made in the last call. You normally have a training officer who's, giving you pointers and working on you hands-on with what you need to work on.
Oh, wow.
It's always, downtime is maybe when you are eating, but really it is always busy. And now every department's different. I'm not speaking for the state fire service. I don't know how they operate, but a lot of departments, the smaller departments for the towns and cities, well, they're not so small, but they all run their house differently. So there's different standard operating procedures for each house, and that's decided by the chief and the officers, what those are, and their board of directors. But mostly from my experience, and I'm not going to speak for everyone, but is mostly just refining what you need to know. For example, they'll clear the apparatus bay, where you keep your engines, and you'll work on drags blindfolded. They'll smoke up the building, and you got to put your BA on, or SCBA on, your breathing apparatus.
Oh, and drag the dummies?
And no, drag each other.
Oh, wow. Really cool.
You work with your webbing, and you drag each other out. And normally, the best one to drag is the heaviest guy there.
Dragging it's so hard. I remember that in law enforcement and in the fire science class, because dead weight is hard to drag. I don't think anybody really understands that until you're stuck there in that position. Seeing a body on the ground and having to drag them out under the smoke that's rising in a building, because you have to stay low to the ground, correct?
Mm-hmm. And so
you're basically crawling on the ground or doing a crab walk on the ground, pulling someone. And how do you pull someone? So let's say you called the fire department, but your house is on fire, and you're not supposed to do this. You're supposed to get out right away. But let's say you're in the same room as your loved one, and they're not waking up. So and maybe we shouldn't even cover this. But so let's not even use that example. What is the proper way, anyways, to pull someone? Let's say there's not an emergency, but what's the proper way, anyways, to drag someone out?
Well, I would say first off, know your own limits. Some people are a heck of a lot stronger than other people, and some people, a lot of people have they have issues with their body. Their back hurts, or they have bad knees. So, remember, if you hurt yourself first, you're not really gonna be much help to your someone you're trying to help. And if it's not an emergency, I would definitely wait and get someone else to help before moving someone, particularly heavy or anything with complications. It's hard for me to answer that because it varies on each scenario. How's the person laying?
That's true.
Where are they?
I know in an accident, you really actually don't want to pull them out, right? Because you don't know if their spine's injured, right?
That in an emergency, there's some situations where it's best to actually keep them from hurting themselves, whether they're trying to move or whatever, or keep them in place until additional, help arrives. It just varies on the situation, really.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to answer, but I would say for an answer straight up would be use your common sense. Don't do anything that you think is going to put them in more danger, and don't do anything that's going to put you in danger. Keep your head on you. It'll be hard in a bad situation to do that, but keeping your head as calm as possible can be the difference between a bad day and a not so bad day.
I know in law enforcement they teach us to grab them under the shoulders, so in their armpits, kind of lock our elbow joints with their armpits and kind of walk backwards with them if we can. But like you said, there's a different approach to every situation.
There's so many variables. And one thing I did learn, there's the way you're taught, but the what I hear in the fire service is there's 100 ways to skin a cat. If the house is burning and it's falling down around you and seconds matter, you're gonna grab them and you're gonna pull them. Any way you can, really. It's a matter of, are you going to burn in the house or are you going to get out?
And people listening, if your house is burning down, you only have seconds, get the hell out.
Yeah, for sure.
I know you love the person you're trying to save, but you got to get out, or then it's just both of you going down. And that's a tough situation, but
it's a hard situation. But if both of you are trapped in there, then nobody's going to come save anybody.
Especially, let's say it's a wife and husband situation, and your kid's already outside safe. One of you has to take care of that kid, right? You can't leave them behind either. So get out of the house, call 911, and just hope for the best.
And leave it up to the professionals, the people who have the right gear and equipment to do it. And trust me, they will do everything they can.
Yeah, because these firefighters, they have the thick gear on, the thick fire jacket and pants and the helmet, and then you have the breathing apparatus so you're not inhaling all that smoke. Mm-hmm. Let's go over that really quick. And I saw in the news just a few days ago, they said that the smoke from the fires is actually higher pollution than like smog from vehicles. They said like it's worse to actually breathe in than the smog from vehicles. Were you ever taught anything like that?
Well, I think it's bad. It's all bad. But I think it's because it's so concentrated in the air versus pollution, and it is kind of distributed throughout the atmosphere, whether it be regionally, globally. But in the areas with thick smoke, it is so thick that, there's actually less oxygen in the air.
Oh, really?
And, there's also, partially combusted particles within that smoke that you are breathing in. That's pretty much what smoke is. It's particles that are, been combusted, or gases if you're close enough. But I mean, all that, it's more concentrated, I would say, and I'm definitely not a professional in, smoke and everything, but from what I was basically taught, it's just because of the high concentration of it, you're breathing in, particles.
And I know, like, 30 minutes from here, I was working a couple of weeks ago, and the lady said, oh, you had 50 baby pigs, and all the mamas and daddies, and she said 40 of them died, 40 of the baby pigs, and that's from the smoke. And she said, and all the ones still alive, including the moms and the dads, they all had lung infections going on, and they were on antibiotics. And she told me again, she said, the vet said that the pig's lungs are actually really, really similar to humans' lungs. And she had baby twins just a few months ago, and she said they're even having a hard time breathing where they're located. I don't know what the closest fire was to them, but that's something that I would have never even thought of. As a horseshoer, I do tell my people on a smoky day, don't ride your horse, because your horse can just kill over. They already, horses are so fragile, and they're such big animals, but they're such wimps, to speak.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has to breathe, and the thick smoke, it complicates that, because like I said, you're breathing in less oxygen. There are particles that are getting in your lungs, and the only thing I could think about the baby pigs or young, very young people is their lungs aren't even fully developed yet. They don't have the filtration system built within their lungs to actually get rid of the smoke and distribute it as waste out your body. The particles, some of them linger within the lungs. And I'm definitely not a doctor, and I'm not trying to come off as one. This is a theory of mine. By knowing what smoke is, I'm assuming that's what is happening. Full undeveloped lungs, they just don't. It's not as tough.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's a theory. Like I said, I'm not a doctor or anything, or not a professional with lungs, or but it's dangerous. The best thing to do on a smoky day is close your windows, stay inside. You don't want to breathe that stuff. It's not good, and hopefully the wind picks up and takes it right out of there wherever you're at. But I mean, California, we're used to smoke every summer. It's smoking, and we're inside. If you can help it.
And it's pretty bad this year. So I have a question now. How long have you been working as a volunteer?
Well, I
after your
after the academy and graduation, I've been on, I'll say, about 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many calls do you think you've gone on in 2 months?
I'm gonna do a rough guess, probably close to 60.
Wow.
Maybe over, maybe a little under, but pretty close to that. I stopped keeping track after.
That's insane, man.
Yeah, it's just, I mean,
so it's like on average 2 a day.
They plan that. I'm pretty sure they plan the academy to graduate right before fire season breaks up. I'm pretty sure they do. They want people who are fresh, and they no pun intended, but they throw you right into the fire.
Yeah, and I seen on the news, man, they got illegal fire brigades. They got prisoner fire brigades. Oh. They got all these different things, dude. Like the Filipinos, like what? They flew over here from the Philippines.
Yeah, I mean, you got people from Australia coming over.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's because there's not enough personnel. These fires are so dang big. There's not enough personnel, but they fire season. They want all the fresh rookies to get out there, and so only a couple months, and I mean, I've already been thrown in a few times.
And so when you do go to these fires or these wrecks or whatever you're going to, house calls, if it's elderly or not even elderly, but someone's hurting.
The medical aid.
Yeah. Since you're new, do you usually sit back and until they ask you to do something? or are you basically like in there like doing everything a regular? You are a firefighter, so a regular is not. I should say full-time firefighter.
Yeah, basically, I follow the lead of my officers. There's an officer, you have your operator, you have your officer. But being in a small, in a rural area, we do have actually a high volume of calls for the area we're in. Not as high as the city. I'm not going to even say that. Not even. But
yeah, when I graduated high school, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. There was like 4 positions in Stockton. This is the town where I live in. And they were hiring 4 positions, and I believe this was the time when we had that very bad economy crash, and everybody was trying to get a job, and there was like 3,000 people lined up literally around the building almost like 2 times or 2.5 times, and trying to get 4 positions, dude. And I was going to go to that, and I looked at that line, I was like, those people need a job a lot more than I do.
makes you want to go stand in line at the DMV. That one's shorter.
So I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, it's fine.
I guess what I was just trying to ask you as a new guy in the department.
Oh yeah.
What are your restraints, or what's the difference between volunteer and full time? I guess that's what we're going into.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah, I mean, for me being new, it's a lot of it's my officers take the lead, or the senior firefighters take the lead. We are low staffed sometimes, so I will have to get hands on. 100% in it. If it's just my my captain and I. If we're the first ones there, he becomes the incident commander. He's doing everything he needs to do. I'm doing everything he wants me to do. And that can be any task, simple or complex. Mostly if it's a medical aid, we'll administer basic first aid, but normally the ambulance company that's local to us will be there right after we are. So we basically have to just keep them stable until the ambulance gets there. Vehicle accidents, patient first, we, whether you got to get cut into a car or, clear the roadway, any task. It could be from cutting open the car yourself to sweeping the roadway to doing traffic control. It just varies with whatever they want. I follow their lead and I do anything they ask.
So I have a follow-up question. When I was talking, in my line of work, I meet a lot of people in all professions, including fire department. It seems like a lot of the volunteers, like everybody, do you like have a pager, or do you have to like run over to the fire station if you're at home? And do you have to live in a certain radius to be a volunteer? I thought that's part of maybe it's different from each firehouse, but I thought there was like a radius thing, like you have to live so close to being volunteer, and you have to show up if you can show up to the firehouse. If the people on duty are out, then you have to be there to take calls. Like, how does that work?
Well, our department is a completely volunteer department.
Oh, wow.
We don't have the tax revenue in our town to have a fully paid department. So we carry a pager, and you have to live, for our department, we have to live within our district, and we all know where our district is, and our chief decides if that's close enough. And basically, you respond when you can, but there's some people respond more than others, and everybody has their reasons for but yes, you live within district, you carry a pager. There's you were going to the difference between paid and volunteer. And volunteers, we're all trained. I went through academy with paid guys who are already being paid to go.
Well, and that's the thing too, right, Logan? Is you're not even doing this really for the money, because you make more money with your main job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your main profession, and you're doing this more so to be helping your society and your area in need. So a lot of people becoming volunteers, they really aren't going into it for the money, right? I guess that's what I'm trying to
No, I for me personally, no. Not for the money. You're volunteering. We make money when we go fight the big fires or strike teams. You get paid for that. But I would say it's a personality thing. After the Butte fire of 2015, I always wanted to help and give back, and that's what I want to do now. I mean, it's a personal note for me, but I feel like I've taken a lot in my life, but I've never really given back. So this is my way of giving back to those people who have helped me out in the past. And, like one of the chiefs said at our graduation ceremony after the academy, you could be the brightest thing in someone's darkest day. And I will never forget what he said. And he said it just epic. But it really, I really thought about that on one of my last calls, because it was that scenario. And that makes it all worth it. Sometimes things in life aren't just about how much money you make. We're trained at the same level as the paid guys, but it's not every tax base and in every town can afford paid personnel all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you're in a big metropolitan, station and like in one of the cities, you're going to be a paid guy. They have the tax base for it. And they probably still have their volunteers. I don't really know for sure.
Let's wrap this section up really quick and we'll be done. People are going to want to know about a big fire because it's fire season and it's California. It's burning down, according to everybody in the United States. Have you been to a big fire?
Not one of these giant ones that the national news is reporting but some local ones. My department hasn't sent out any strike teams. So we've basically been basically for everyone local to our area, we've been out to, whether that's, a structure fire or, 1,200 acre fire, and that's not little, that's pretty big. But we had one recently that was about that big locally around here. But we're on it pretty fast along with the state fire department. We team up with them and we put out everyone locally here before it's gotten to be another.
And you're actually helping hold the hose down.
Yeah,
right?
we're last fires I've been on, I've laid progressive hose lays along with the state guys and forestry. And all those guys, every single one of them, one of the most humble guys I've ever met.
All professional. Right?
Yeah, those guys are the state guys. They're paid, and they if you're lost on something and it happens, if it's your first time out in a fire, chaos around you, fire all around, and they're still helping you. You're a team out there, and it's something if there's a cockiness, I'm sure there is somewhere. Some people, personalities vary, but I've yet to see it. These guys are professional. They do their job well, and they teach. That's all I can say. We work side by side, and you go hungry together. You don't sleep. You're all in the same boat.
Yeah, and so let's, in conclusion, Logan, to this wonderful interview. Actually, it's going really well. What's your future plans for fire? Are you just gonna stay a volunteer and move up the ranks in your current job, or eventually you're gonna retire and then maybe do a full-time fire, or are you just not there yet and you're just beginning? I know you're just beginning in the fire field. Are you going to try to get your paramedic license? Do you have any future plans?
Yeah, my future plans is to upgrade my first responder to EMT. That's in the near future, probably next year sometime, because I still have to budget my time with my family and everything. I want to see where I can take it, what I learn, and if I can make a career of it, I definitely will. Yeah. I just have to. I'm a little older than the rest of these guys in it, and I have a family, so I have to make sure that they're well taken care of before I do anything. But my goal is to make it a career eventually, and that may take me out of my current, station. So be it, But right now, I'm just going to soak up everything from these guys and gals, and learn everything I can, and assess then.
Yeah, definitely, and you're allowed to do that. People are allowed to do that without holding grudges, because you're giving your time, you're helping your community, and they're helping you in return. Your community is helping you in return by giving you this education and experience, and it's win-win for both sides. And like you said, there's younger people and older people at all walks of life that are volunteering, and I really commend you on that, Logan. I think that's a great thing that you're doing, because you're not, like you said, you're not doing it for the money. And all you future firefighters are in any type of profession, if you're going to do something that you really feel you need to do or that you love to do, you can't look at it as how much money you're going to make. because actually in this life, when you die, you can't take any of that money with you. Yes, you can leave it to your kids, but enjoy life, experience life, and help people in their lives, because that's really what's going to fulfill you mentally, is being there for someone.
Yeah, it's true.
And do you have any closing thoughts on maybe helping someone get started in this path? Or
at least here in California, I mean, at least in our area, it's fairly easy. You go get an application at the station you want to go to or to apply to, and the personnel there, they'll guide you through it, and you just start there, and even probably do a couple ride-alongs, see if that's what you want, see if you like it. There's some people don't like it, it's not their thing, and the reality of it is you see some stuff that's unsettling, and I say that very mildly. There's some stuff that it's Hollywood stuff, but it's not fake. It's the real deal, so. But that's not to discourage anyone from doing it. I can tell you it's been the most humbling, rewarding thing I've done with myself, besides be a father, that I've ever done. And it way outshines my 9-to-5 job by far, because it's giving back. You're helping people, and there's also camaraderie, that is pretty important. I think people need that, and that's just my thought.
Yeah, that's a good, it's a good mental thing, to have people help lifting you up and you're help lifting them up, and it makes you feel important, or your life, maybe not you, but it makes your life feel important. Fulfilled, yeah. And so, thank you, Logan, for doing this podcast with me. I'm at his home. It's a beautiful little home, popped up in the gold rush era, and he was telling me all about these outlaws. The nearby saloon with deaths every day.
Not now.
Not now. But it's a beautiful little town. Thank you, Logan.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.